The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
this is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
It might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the Sports Guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report, a sunny Thursday here in Southern California. If I sound different, that's because I am at the 7:10 a.m. studios in LA Live, next to where the offices are for the website. This is exciting. I feel like a real radio person. On the Subway Fresh Tech Hotline in studio in Bristol, Connecticut, Mr. Matthew Berry. What's happening?
I'm depressed, man. That's what's happening.
Oh, hold on. I hear a noise. What is that? What? Do you hear a noise in the background?
A little bit. It's faint.
Is it?
What noise are you hearing?
Jake, is that a panic button? What is that?
Ooh.
Oh. Oh, my God. It's the Laker panic button.
Absolutely.
Oh, no.
I've been playing
the
that all
Kobe
morning.
Is coming to an end.
It really
is that an ambulance?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. This is so great. I got to say,
the best part about that is Phil can't hear that. He's already at his house in Montana.
I got to say, I was so bummed out after Celtics game 2, and I just don't want to get swept by this Miami team. I can't believe the lack of heart with the Celtics. I can't believe Miami is dominating it physically. I had to go on Twitter and try to stir the series up. That didn't even work. And then I go last night to the Staples Center.
Right.
And the Mavericks just come out and they punch the Lakers right in the mouth. The Lakers don't respond. Being there, hearing the fans boo, turn on the team, leave early, it really almost made up for Game 7 of the 2010 Finals for me. I got to be honest.
Really? That much? Yeah. You got that much joy
obviously
out of it?
Obviously not 100% there, but I was maybe 42% made up for the purple confetti falling on me.
Seeing your own team lose. Here's what's weird is like, so I'm a Lakers fan, obviously, and I've been a season ticket holder for forever, and I hate the Celtics, obviously, just like you hate the Lakers.
Yeah.
But yet I'm rooting for the Celtics because I hate the Heat that much more. Like, I'm like anybody but the Heat this year. Obviously, I want the Lakers to win the championship, but if they don't, I'm of the mind of anyone but the Heat. Because at least to me, Boston sort of earned it. I mean, yes, you got the rip-off trade with Kevin Garnett, but at least, like, Rondo's a homegrown guy. Like, good coaching. I feel like it's not I don't know. I feel like Boston would be a more legitimate champion than kind of this mix and match, just add superstars thing that the Heat have going on.
Well, that was my case to America yesterday on Twitter. Look, if you hate the Celtics, I'm fine with that. If you hate Boston teams, I'm fine with that. I get it. Root against us in round 3.
Right.
We need America for round 2. We cannot let Miami advance to round 3 because
it's everything that's wrong with sports.
Playing, they're going to win. Yeah, it's just, come on. You got to root against this Miami team. Root against the Celtics in round 3.
Right.
It's my case.
And I'm with you. And if you don't, I mean, and you're talking about a guy who hates Boston, and yet I found myself rooting for the Celtics in each of those games because anyone but the Heat. And if you're not on board with the Heat hate, just go back and watch that welcome video.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, oh, my God. Like, you haven't accomplished anything yet.
It's my new
It's
Rick
so
Roll.
Propaganda.
Remember those Rick Roll YouTube videos where it was like people would post a link and it was the Rick Astley video?
Yes.
I've been doing that with the Heat welcome party. I just always throw the link in and people click on it and they're like, oh, God. And then they watch it. They remember how annoying that whole thing was. But, yeah, it's like I got to say I'm a little concerned, though, because in a 7-game series, you only have to go 4-3.
Right.
And when you watch this Heat team and you look what happened in those 2 Celtic games, Wade is the best player on the floor in Game 1. LeBron is the best player on the floor in Game 2. And you figure in a 7-game series, those guys are so talented. 2 times out of 7, they're going to be the best player on the floor. Well, that's all you need.
Right.
And that's where and maybe I was denying this in my head, but, man, talent's going to win out in the end. And if this Celtics team continues to look as old as it did in those first 2 games, I don't see it happening. But I will say this. I think we have a better chance than this decrepit Laker team who now has to go to Dallas and win 2 out of 3
right.
in Dallas over the next 4 games.
It's interesting. I just saw something on SportsCenter where they did a Sports Nation poll, which 0-2 teams got a better chance, and America seems to think that the Lakers have a better chance, which is odd to me because all the Celtics did, and I agree with your assessment, but basically the Heat held home court. Right,
Heat held home court. They're favored by 5 both games.
Right, it's the old saying, like, it's not a series till someone loses at home court. Yep. The Lakers lost 2 in a row at home court, and the first game you could argue with the Lakers, they probably should have won that game. They sort of let it slip through their fingers. Okay. Game 2, and listen, I'm the first guy to whine about the refs. Game 2, and I do think the interior guys in the Lakers just got beat up with no calls at all. But having said that, look, Dallas beat L.A. I mean, beat them cleanly, embarrassed them. And, I mean, like, as a Lakers fan, I just sat there. I have not been that depressed watching a Lakers playoff game since the
06 Game 7?
No. Well, yes, that one.
08 Game 6.
Yeah, except actually not even 08, because I didn't really feel like 08 Game 6 was depressing. But I'll say even more so because, you know, with Boston, I didn't really feel like we were the better team. Like, I had hope, but I wasn't surprised. I was going to go to the Game 7 against Portland. I want to say it's 0-2, where basically they got their butts kicked for 3.5 quarters, and then Rasheed Wallace couldn't hit anything, and LA made that great. You know the game I'm talking about.
It was 2000. It was your first title.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, because we felt like we were the better team, and then we were there. It was Game 7. And I was home. We were at home, and I was in Staples Center for that game. And for the first 3.5 quarters, Portland could not miss, and you're just depressed. You're like, oh my God. We're going to lose this. We got Shaq, we got Kobe. We're going to lose this game. And then Brian Shaw hits the 3 off the backboard, and they start making that run. But
here's the difference, though, with that game and this game. In that game, you still had arguably the 2 best players on the floor in 2000. In this game, you don't have the best player in the series.
Correct.
Dirk Nowitzki is the best player in this series.
He's been unreal.
He's unstoppable. This is the best he's ever played. Which is weird because this is like his 11th or 12th season, but he's that. I'll tell you that the nail in the coffin shot that he made where he got fouled with about 3 minutes left.
Ridiculous.
And he turned around and went to the bench, did the German fist pump, right? And their bench was locked in. It was one of those things where we were sitting across from the benches, and you could see in the first quarter their bench was locked in because the Lakers came out. Bynum looked great. Kobe looked great. They're scoring, and then you look up and it's 14-13.
Yeah.
It's 20-18. It's like, the Mavericks aren't going away. They think they can win this game. And in the third quarter, that whole bench was standing, and you could kind of just see the Lakers cave. Let me ask you this, Matthew Berry.
Yeah.
You feel like Kobe kind of quit a little in the last 6 minutes?
No, I don't think Kobe quit. I think he... I honestly...
Game 7, 2006 Suns. A little bit of a vibe from him. I'm just telling you what I saw.
But,
no?
Right. No, listen. Well, right. If I look through the world through purple-colored glasses...
Anti-Kobe glasses.
Yes, anti-Kobe glasses. I don't know where you found a pair, but you managed to make them. I honestly believe that your child could be in a fire, and Kobe Bryant would run in, save one of your children, run out, hand you your child, and you'd be like, really? You had to break the furniture to get to him? That's what I feel like. Kobe can do no...
Why'd you go around? You could have just gone straight.
Right.
You could have just gone through the kitchen.
Right, exactly.
That shouldn't have taken that long.
Exactly. That would have been your reaction. Right.
I was surprised, though, because... And I even tweeted this last night. So there's like 7.5 minutes left. Dallas is up 8. They clearly looked like they were en route to winning this. And it was set up for Kobe coming back in and just jacking shots.
Yes.
And he didn't, and it was almost like, and we've seen him do this before. Don't deny it, Matthew Berry.
Right.
Don't deny that he does this. When he gets disenchanted with his teammates, he'll go into that mode of, you know what? You guys win this. Go ahead. Because he didn't really shoot. I didn't feel like he tried to take over.
Well, come on now. Hang on.
You guys do this.
So, you know what?
No,
come on. You could stop it. You Kobe haters will do the same thing, right? So if now he's the bad guy because he doesn't shoot. And yes, if he'd come in and done what you said, he jacked up a ton of shots and hadn't shot 50%, which is basically what he did for the first 2 games. You guys would be see, Kobe's not sharing it. Where are his assists? His sister down. It's the Kobe show with 4.
That's what I love about hating Kobe.
Kobe can't win. Listen, there's a lot of problems with the Lakers, and no question over the years, some of the times the problems have been Kobe related. In this series, absolutely not. Kobe's been the only guy that showed up, frankly.
Yeah, but they did a smart game plan, though, because
they basically
want
said
Kobe to get his 37.
I felt like they were doubling Kobe a lot on the perimeter.
In game 2, they were a little more.
Yeah, and I felt like they basically said, you know what, we don't think anyone else on this team can make a shot from outside, which turns out they were right. We're going to pack it in the middle. We're going to throw 2 guys at Kobe, and everyone else, take your shots, we'll live with it. And no one could hit a shot. Interesting stat here, Kobe Bryant has only 3 shooting fouls in this entire series. And I think partially that's because he's not driving nearly as much. I mean, I think they're, quote, letting them play, but I think also, like, Kobe's settling for way too many jump shots. Dude, you're up against Jason Kidd. And why won't everyone clear out and let Kobe just post on him all day long? And if somebody comes over to double, why don't you, and then Kobe obviously can pass it out.
The Mavs were fine with that in game 1. As you said in game 2, I think their game plan evolved because it became pretty clear that nobody in the Lakers could make a shot. Right. And then it just switched. They basically did the Game 7 2010 Boston game plan, which is, all right, we're going to leave everybody open, and we're going to just make Kobe try to take bad shots. And to his credit, he didn't really force any bad shots, I didn't feel like.
No. The problems with the Lakers, I mean, there's so many to start with. I'll tell you one thing that really disturbed me. I think Phil Jackson got outcoached. And I think he got outcoached for the second time, and I've not seen that since he's been the head coach of the Lakers. I mean,
Doc Rivers worked him a little. In 08 and Game 4 especially, I thought Doc Rivers really got him.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. But I think overall, I bow at the altar of Phil, right? I think arguably the greatest coach of any professional sport ever. And not only was Game 1 and that terrible snafu with the timeout, and he's got Gasol on Dirk instead of Odom.
Good use of snafu.
Thank you very much. I try to work it in once a week.
Haven't heard that one in a while. Enjoyed that.
Appreciate that. But in Game 2, I didn't understand why on earth when Dallas went small.
Yep.
We clearly do not. And we've had trouble with small teams and quick teams along, the corpse of Derek Fisher out there trying to, run around.
By the way, since the 80s, you've had trouble with those guys.
He was in the year 2000, 2001, 2002, Fisher would get blown by point guards. So, whatever. So we know we're not, even if we go small, we're not as fast as they are, as their smalls, right? We don't have anyone on the team that can keep up with Barrera. So why not, if you know you're going to be chasing guys around,
zone.
why not go zone, and why not go big? Why not say, you know what, fine, we're going to be chasing around, but, we're going to go with our 3 7-footers. We're going to combine them, Gasol and Odom out there on the floor. With our Test and Kobe at the 1 and 2, believe it or not, and then say, fine, but we're going to pound it in every single time, try to get you guys in foul trouble, and maybe slow it down and make you take some outside shots with the zone.
It's an awesome point, and I made it last night during the game. When Barrea's in, Derek Fisher is not the answer. You need to go big at that point and be like, all right, you're going to play Barrea. Here are 2 guards, Kobe Bryant and Ron Artest. Who's he guarding?
Right.
Mouse in the hole. That's what Portland did. They went mouse in the hole with Andre Miller, and they basically tried to take him out of the series. It didn't totally work. You can do it with Kobe and Artest.
Yeah.
And also you have big guys in the lineup. You're going to be able to protect the rim better. That's what was really embarrassing, was Barrea was beating guys off the dribble, and nobody was even coming over to try to challenge shots.
No, I'm sure you saw the quote about Bynum on talking about the trust, and Kobe saying, he's talking about defensive help, and he's right. I mean, and they're both right. I don't know that he necessarily should have gone to the press with that, but they're right. No one's helping. What the hell? What the hell, guys?
Yeah, Phil.
Can you play the panic meter one more time for me here, Pod? For the love.
I just heard it. Oh my God, there it is again.
Oh, God.
I'm
say this. So frustrated.
Well, here's the difference in this series and the Celtics series. I watched the Celtics games thinking that we were getting good shots, both games. And in Game 1, just Pierce must have missed 10 wide open shots. And I didn't feel like Miami was playing that great defense. In Game 2, they played good defense in the third quarter, and that's it. But otherwise, we had shots. People just weren't making them. And that's why I feel like you swing this series back to Boston, the crowd gets into it. They come back. In this Dallas series, it almost would be like they'd have to dramatically change what they do to win this series. As you said, maybe you just have to go big. Maybe Derek Fisher just doesn't play anymore.
Yeah, I think he starts out and
Steve Blake shouldn't play anymore. Steve Blake, people were almost ready to charge the court and clothesline him last night.
If they had, after the game last night, if they had cut Steve Blake, I'd have been fine with it. If they had waived him right away. If they'd said, hey, Smush Parker, where are you? You're on a playground somewhere? Come on by. You're back in. I'd have been fine with it. That's how angry I was at Steve Blake, and I didn't understand the insistence on continuing to keep him out there when clearly his shot wasn't working. He was turning the ball over, and he's obviously a liability on defense. I know they were saying they think he's good on defense and he can keep up, but
not with Barea.
Not with Barea. Like I said on Twitter, and some people went back at me. I said, why wouldn't you put Shannon Brown in there? Because at least Shannon Brown, to me, is a little bit more athletic. He's a guy that can create his own shot. I think, frankly, he jacks it up too much, but at least that's a guy that will take it to the rim somewhat. Steve Blake is scared to shoot. I mean,
that's
Steve
what
Blake looked like I would be out there. I'd be here, Kobe, you take it.
My friend Hersheimer, who I was at the game with me yesterday, we were talking afterwards about Dallas, and this is a great way to measure who's really ready to win a title or compete for the title. You looked at all the guys that Dallas had out there last night. There wasn't the weak link in the bunch. You know, like in Shawshank, the fresh fish guy.
Right.
Fresh fish. Who's going to start crying in the jail cell at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
And I think the Celtics have a couple of those guys. I think Kristich is like that. Jeff Green, I don't trust. Big Baby is a mental case right now. I don't know what's happening. They have guys that I just don't trust. And you look at that Dallas team. Every guy in that team is locked in. There's no weak link guy. Even Peja, who, anybody could have had, anybody could have bought out. That guy goes in, he thinks he's going to make wide open threes. They don't have a single guy in their top 9 who isn't locked in. And the Lakers, Steve Blake not locked in. Fisher's lost his confidence completely. Shannon Brown, they're leaving him wide open. Here's Shannon Brown, take a 3, and he's not making them.
Right. Matt Barnes has been terrible. What happened to Matt Barnes?
By the way, he was bad a year ago. I don't know why everybody thought he was the magic elixir. Pierce ate him up in the Eastern Finals, and then you had
as a bench guy, he was terrible as a starter. Like, I think people liked him. I certainly liked him as a bench guy, saying, "Oh, you know what? Get 12, 15 minutes out of that guy.
Right.
Perfect."
Well,
but
the other issue you have is your 5 best players can't play at the same time.
Right.
Which is just weird. And to me, I agree with you. Throw them out. Here are our best 5. If we're going to go down, we're going to go down swinging. We have this weird, awkward team, but this is how we're going to have to go down swinging.
Do you feel like, and partially I feel like, so I like you're blaming Kobe just because you want to blame Kobe.
I'm not blaming Kobe. I thought he would take over, and I was surprised that.
I think he wanted to, but I think he knows. I think he knew at that point, like, I'm not winning this by myself. I got to get my teammates involved. And what's weird is, they were getting shots, they just weren't going in. I feel like Phil said this in his press conference after the game, and I agree with this. It's their defense. Those shots will go in. Kobe's not going to miss a layup again. They're not going to shoot 50% from the line or whatever it was. I don't think they're going to go 0 for 14 from 3-point range, which is what the bench has done in this series so far. They'll make shots, I believe, but their defense. The problem is that even when they're making shots, so is Dallas. Dallas isn't struggling on offense at all. Send it to Dirk, who's 45 feet from the basket. He throws it up one-handed off balance, and it goes in. He's ridiculous. Here's my question to you. I think you can blame these 2 losses on a couple of people here.
Well, there's one in particular.
Well, obviously, I think the bench just overall. I'll call them one person. So just the bench.
Benches are erratic in general. There's a reason. There's one specific reason why this series is going to hell.
It's Odom. Odom has not been what we need out of him.
No,
Gasol's been terrible.
Gasol is the guy
and I got a third guy for you that's going to shock you. And my third guy, Mitch Kupchak.
Oh,
because. Listen, if we praise on Kupchak, for the Gasol trade and drafting Bynum and a lot of these pieces, you've also got to say, like, look, dude. As you said, guys like Peja, right? Barrera, their bench is clearly better than our bench. Steve Blake looks like a terrible signing. And by the way, it's not like Steve Blake suddenly had a bad game. Steve Blake's been terrible all year.
I think from February to April, he might have been the worst player in the league.
Yeah, he's been, and maybe this is one of those, and you've brought this point up too, Bill. The triangle, right. This is a guy who's just not fit for this offense. But Blake's been terrible. Barnes has been terrible. Shannon Brown.
Let's go back to Gasol though, because if Gasol's
been bad.
Like if Gasol played in Game 7 of the 2010 Finals, like he's played in these playoffs, the Celtics win that game by 12 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him. He is the mismatch that you have in this series because he has Dirk Nowitzki on him. And I said this to House 2 days ago on the podcast. If you're going to put Dirk Nowitzki on Pau Gasol, I'm going to go to him every time for the entire first quarter and try to get Dirk in foul trouble.
Yeah, I don't understand why we're doing that.
Over and over again. Let's get to Pau again. Get him in. And, when Kobe's shooting as many times as he did in Game 1, I don't think that's good for the Lakers. They need that Pau, Bynum. They need those guys to get a combined 25 to 30 shots, I feel like.
No question about this.
And it's not happening.
I don't know if you...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if you saw this, but Peter Newman, one of our researchers here at ESPN, just sent out, before I came on this podcast, sent out a package of all sorts of nuggets, all sorts of information nuggets about the Lakers-Mavericks series so far. And one of the things he had was, in Game 2, on 78 possessions that the Lakers had, Andrew Bynum touched the ball on just 15 of those. This is a guy that was 8 for 11 last night. And yeah, I mean, he's a big body and get those guys in foul trouble. I mean, that's one of the problems, right, is that they have Brendan Haywood, they have Dirk, they have Chandler. So the size advantage isn't really that great on the Lakers side the way it is with the rest of the league. So pound it inside and try to get some contact, try to get to the line, try to get some foul trouble. And frankly, they haven't been in foul trouble the way they were against New Orleans when Okafor, couldn't stay on the floor.
Bynum had, Gasol and Bynum, 23 shots combined. They made 13. 8 free throws. To me, it's like if you're going to win this series, those guys have to be over 25 field goals combined, and they have to be at least 13, 14 free throws combined.
Well, let me ask you about that because, listen, like I said, I'll be the first guy to whine about bad officiating and everything like that. But I do feel like, listen, the Lakers lost that game, so I'm not making excuses. Like, even, quote, a perfectly called game, the Lakers still lose that game, no question. But I did feel like watching it, and obviously I'm not objective, so I'm asking you. I felt like every time Gasol or Bynum would get the ball down low, they were just getting hacked to death and just getting no calls. They were really, quote, letting them play, but then there were a couple of ticky-tack fouls that Dallas got down on the end. Did you feel that way at all, watching it close? I was watching it on TV.
I thought it was pretty even. Okay. To be honest. And I actually, because Bennett Salvatore was there, who's Dallas's worst nightmare, I thought that might rear its ugly head at some point, and it really didn't. I will say the one thing that I've noticed in the first two games, and this is something that the refs decide in the first quarter whether it's going to happen or not. It's the way Kidd was defending Kobe. He was from half court on, in his chest, bumping him, pushing him, prodding him, and that's one of those things that they can decide 3 minutes into the first quarter, you know what, we're not going to let you do that, Jason.
Right.
Foul. You know what, Jason, you're a little too close still. Foul. He's got 2 fouls all of a sudden. And they haven't done that. They've kind of let the Mavs push him around and touch him and feel him and kick him and do all that stuff. In Game 1, that's the thing that drove me nuts as well, is that so Gasol goes on the inbound play after the whole timeout snafu. There you go, second reference. Nice. I still enjoyed it as much the second time.
So, Gasol's going for the ball, and they call the foul on Gasol, and they put Dirk on the line. Okay. I thought that call could have gone either way, but fine, that's fine. But then Kobe coming around, and everyone says that wasn't a foul, but if you watch the tape of that, Kidd is grabbing Kobe's jersey. He's grabbing the jersey until Kobe comes around the screen, and Kidd just sort of lets him go, and maybe it's a little shove, maybe he trips, who knows, and then they get the turnover. But just like he's grabbing the jersey, if you're calling the Gasol foul, how is that not a foul?
I'm with you. And
Kidd is like the big master of grabbing the jersey. And
that's the thing. The veterans can get away with that stuff. Don't think Kobe doesn't do that too, but Garnett, Kidd, Kobe, Nash, all those guys who the officials have known for 15 years, they get a little more leeway with that stuff. And I think out of everybody, Kidd is the best at knowing, I can do this, I can bump this, I can do this. And going back to the Miami-Boston series for a second and talking about the refs establishing what can and cannot work, the Miami was chipping Rondo, so anytime they set a high screen for him and the big guy rolled off, Miami's big guy rolled off to roll with the guy who picked for Rondo, the guy would always throw his elbow or stick his leg out and kind of chip Rondo, which is a foul. It's supposed to be a foul, but if they let it go in the first quarter, they'll let it go all game. And that was one of the things Miami did to knock Boston out of sorts. Same thing with Kidd against Kobe. And if you want to talk about how refs can control games, it's not like the league goes in and says, we're going to fix Game 3. The Lakers need to get back. We're going to fix this for them.
Right.
But they will say to the refs for Game 3, hey, we looked at the tape. Kids shouldn't be doing that. You have to call that this game.
Right.
And that's their way of not fixing it, but kind of evening it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and listen, God bless if that happens. I hope you're right. I'm counting on the refs.
I bet that's what happens because, I think the Lakers will be given every chance to make this 2-1, in my opinion. As a Lakers fan and not an objective journalist, as a pure Lakers fan, I sure hope so. We're not getting anything from our bench, so please, we need the refs to help out the starting five. What surprised me, and we've talked about Laker playoff crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Last night's was not a sophisticated crowd, and I think it's one of those, this will happen sometimes in the playoffs with Laker games where there's a lot of bandwagoners or people that they're there just to be there and they don't. I was amazed that nobody realized, like, hey, Laker fans, you might never see Phil Jackson again as he's walking off right now. People fled, they were done, they were booing, and it's like, you
end of an era.
This might not be coming back, right? This is going to Dallas. You might be 4-0. You might never see Phil Jackson again. And it was like there was no recognition of that in the stands, I didn't feel like.
I was shocked by that. I got a story for you that you're going to like. I told this story on my fantasy podcast the other day. So I'm a Lakers season ticket holder, and I've had them for years. And I lived in L.A. for a long time as a screenwriter, and it took me 10 years, but I finally moved down to the lower bowl. And so it's one of those things that they're too valuable to give up. I mean, the Lakers sell out every year, and every year the prices go higher. But it's still, I mean, it's Kobe, it's Phil, they're too valuable to give up. And so throughout the year, I'll just I'll either sell them to friends. I have certain friends that buy them, and I have other friends that Otherwise, I'll just sell them on StubHub. Right? I never have an issue. And then I come back for a few games, and that's how I've been able to see the finals the last couple of years through these tickets. So for Game 2 of the Dallas game, for Game 1 of the Dallas series, I put the tickets up on StubHub, and the face value of these particular tickets, let's say $230. The face value of these particular tickets. So I put them up on StubHub for $299. I was looking at what the other prices were going for, like $300, something like that. So I would have made maybe $20 a ticket after StubHub takes their cut. Fine. I'm not even worried about making the $20 or whatever. But whatever. You try to make a little bit of money, right? No one's biting. I lower it to $250. So now I'm going to basically break even. No one's biting. I go onto StubHub to see, because you want to try to price competitively. What other tickets in this section or similar sections going for? There were tickets going for, and these are face value at $230. There were tickets going for $195. And
for
again,
Lakers, that's shocking.
$195, and that's a ticket that, by the way, whoever put it up at $195 is going to lose $25 of that to StubHub after they take their cut. So I mean, they're losing $100 on a playoff ticket. It's one thing if you can't get rid of your Wednesday night game against the Bobcats. I get that one, right? But this is Monday night against the Mavs, semifinal game, and they couldn't get it. So then I started emailing my friends. Who wants them for face value? No one's interested. I emailed, our mutual friend Lewis, who's a huge Lakers fan, and he works at a big company. And I emailed him, and I said, "Are you interested?" And he emails me back and says, "I can't find anyone that wants to go with me. And by the way, no one here knows anyone that wants to go."
Fat cat syndrome.
Yeah, I'm like...
You won the two titles. It happens.
Literally, I could not find anyone to buy these tickets.
Well,
I ended up giving them to a friend. It's like... But my point is like not about the money, but just like, oh my God, would you ever think a Laker playoff ticket wouldn't be snatched up like that? That people are like taking less than face value or just trying to get rid of these tickets.
The last night's game was supposedly a hot ticket because I think people felt the urgency last night. And you could feel it in the stands, and everybody got pretty tense pretty quickly. I got the feeling watching that game that this is over. And Dallas is locked in, and they have advantages. They have specific advantages in this series. I picked the Lakers because I just thought the Kobe advantage was so severe for the Lakers that even, he was just going to get his 35 to 40 every game. And I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I really underestimated the Mavericks bench. I underestimated Pau Gasol, because I thought, all right, Pau didn't have a great first series, but come on, he's Pau. He'll get it together. Bynum's playing better. Yeah, I thought they and I threw in the fact that the league hates Cuban. So I thought, you know what? I said, all those things combined. Yeah. This is the last hurrah. I think I was worried about. My big fear was Oklahoma City. I think you and I emailed about this privately.
They're also a victim of a bad matchup. It looks like
right. Like I felt like if because I was looking past Dallas and maybe the Lakers were doing this too. I was like, look, I really want Memphis to beat Oklahoma City because I think that the Lakers can beat Memphis. I don't know that they can beat Oklahoma City. I was looking.
I feel like you would have had more trouble with Memphis.
I don't know. I sort of felt like Powell's deficiencies, like younger brother, older brother kind of thing. Like he'd probably, those kids have they've probably been playing against each other since they were 6 and 8 or whatever.
What happened to Powell though? What's happened to him? Looks like mentally he's checked out. What could have happened to this guy?
I don't know. I think he's probably lost his
for 4 months.
Yeah, I think he's probably lost his confidence a little bit. And I wonder if there's some sort of. He's not physical. That's the weird part. He was starting to be physical a little bit, and it's almost like towards the middle of the game last night, there was a moment where he got fouled. He hit a shot. He hit it like a dunk, and he got fouled, but he didn't get the call. And he was like all angry. I was like, yeah, pal, get pissed. Finally, come on, get angry. You know what I mean? And then it disappeared. I wish I had an answer for Gasol.
Do you think he's just like, I'm so tired of playing with Kobe Bryant, I got my extension. I'm just good. I'm ready to go to Spain.
No, I mean he might be tired because he played all that time, but I don't think that's it. I mean, who knows?
Well, if you look at the box score, 2 for 20 from 3. Yeah. If that's 7 for 20, you win the game by 3.
Listen, if they
maybe that's just what it came down to.
If they hit their free throws, they're in that game till the end. Well, then it just got sloppy and they gave up, and they sort of gave up.
3. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I will say though.
I mean, they barely lost. I mean, they were leading game 1. If you want to do the apologist route, they were leading game 1 up until basically the last 45 seconds. So that's a game they should have won.
Yep.
And they didn't. And so yeah, game 2, it's a kind of fluky thing. Again, weird stuff like Kobe missing that layup. Kobe, what are the odds that Kobe misses a breakaway layup with only Jason Kidd trailing him? And he blew a layup. I mean, just a weird game.
I think Phil cost you game 1 because the Gasol Nowitzki thing was a catastrophe.
I agree.
It really was. It was the worst coaching move of the playoffs, and to screw that up was really bad. And then last night, you got to try something. You're down 1-0 and you're threatening to go down 2-0 with the next 2 in Dallas.
Sticking with the small lineup way too long. I don't understand what he was trying with Steve Blake there, and very odd. The other thing that was upsetting to me was I didn't mind Artest getting physical because it was definitely like a chippy kind of game, and everyone was very shoving. But to me, if you're going to risk suspension and you're going to throw a cheap shot, why not do it at Nowitzki? Honestly, why not try to rattle his game?
Yeah. I'm with you. Or try to test somebody who might handle it incorrectly, like Tyson Chandler, who might not even been out there at the time, but go for somebody who might escalate it and then get a bigger suspension. I think Artest is. You can't really analyze his actions ever.
No. Right.
Hey, you have 90 seconds to give us 4 fantasy baseball somethings.
I just did a column, and so a bunch of slow starters that I believe in. I believe Dan.
Give us 4 slow starters.
Dan Ugla. I think he's gotten really unlucky. I think James McDonald and Eric Bedard, 2 pitchers that I liked a lot in the preseason as sleepers, have looked better in the last couple of starts, and I think they're starting to round into form. Remember, these guys were injured in preseason, so it seems like it took them a little bit longer. And your boyfriend, Michael Pineda, the real deal.
Oh. I love him.
Yeah, and as well you should. I think they're going to limit his innings, but everything you hoped for and more.
His strike ball ratio is outrageous. Yesterday, at one point, it was like 60 to 15 or some crazy. And plus, the hitters just have that look on their face. The hitters have that look like they're not totally positive. Pineda knows where it's going.
Right.
Yeah, no, he's throwing 98 with movement, so they're kind of in there. They're not totally digging in. I don't want to get hit in the head.
He is ridiculous. And
hey, last question.
Yeah.
This Jose Bautista thing.
Legit.
His on base is over 500 now.
Legit.
This is like Bonds 2001. We're heading toward that direction.
In September of 2009, he started working with his old hitting coach and had a real good month there. And then obviously we all know what he did in 2010. Yeah. He adjusted his swing, and ever since then, ever since he adjusted his swing and started working with his new hitting coach, he's been lights out. It's legitimate. He was a guy, I didn't think he'd be this good, but he was a guy that I said in the preseason, I said, listen, last year wasn't a fluke. He may not hit 54 this year, but, pay for 35 to 40 and you'll be fine. He's going to do that. And I wasn't alone. A lot of other people felt the same way about Bautista. Yeah, this is
He took the Pujols title, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
he's the guy now.
It's looking that way. I mean, by the way, and for people, like, I get so many people that are freaking out about Carlos Gonzalez and Hanley Ramirez. It's a month.
It's May
relax.
4th.
It's right, exactly. Just relax. Don't hit the panic meter there. If you want to hit a panic meter, hit it for my Lakers and for Bill's Celtics. Here's a question for you on your Celtics.
Yeah.
Have you hit the panic meter on you on the Celtics yet? Do you think they're done?
No, because I think we're going to win Game 3, and then I guess I did hit the panic meter. I really thought they were going to win Game 2.
Yeah.
Still kind of. You can thank you. I just thought they'd show up for that game, and the fact that Pierce and Garnett looked as old as they did, I thought was, and then also that Miami is controlling the physicality of the series.
I mean, do you blame that on the Perkins trade without him there to shove guys around?
Yeah, I do blame it on the Perkins trade to some degree, because I think part of their identity was this false bully mentality of don't mess with us, we're the Celtics, and they remove one of those soldiers, and all of a sudden now there's KG, when he's barking, there's nobody standing next to him, and I do think it fundamentally changed their personality, and they haven't really recovered. And also, you have these guys that haven't really been on the team for that long that are in these positions of trust now. It's never good at, Kristich and Green, and Troy Murphy's not playing, but Arroyo's not playing, but all these new faces, these guys weren't on the team in late February.
Right.
At least like with the Lakers, like they kind of know who their team is. Blake's the only new guy.
Yeah,
but I think
Barnes,
that's what Dallas. I think that's the biggest thing for them. Chandler fit in seamlessly, and Peja has too. But that the nucleus of that team has been together long enough that there's a trust. And you saw it in the Portland series against Portland.
Yeah,
they should have won 5 of those 6 games. They played really well in Portland. They won. Yeah. They won Game 6 there, but they should have won Game 4, and they were right there in Game 3. There's just
and they didn't fold. They didn't fold. No. The old Mavs would have folded. I'll make this prediction, and then I'll leave you because I know you're talking to Henry. If the Lakers win Games 3 and 4, they will win the championship. If they lose either one of those games, they're done in this series. If they go back to LA down 3-1, they're done.
I think you're going to win Game 3.
If they win Game 3, they've got a real shot at Game 4, and then I think they will go on, full on FU mode and just crush the rest of the way, and like this is the last hurrah, because they are definitely done after this.
The best thing you have going for you is the history of the Mavs and the distrust they have of officials, and just like that the team's gonna lead them down this road and then choke in the end, and you have some elements there that could play out the right way in Games 3 and 4. And I think, it's so you basically have to win 2 of 3 in Dallas, which is really tough. It's just a lot to ask.
Tough, but not impossible. If there's a team that can do it, it's the Lakers.
We talked about this last night. I think Boston has an easier chance because there's 5 games left in the series, and 3 of them are in Boston.
Right.
Whereas the Lakers, there are 5 games left in the series. There's only 2 in Los Angeles. It's just tougher. Anyway, Matthew Berry will check you out on ESPN.com in the fantasy section. Your podcast, Fantasy Focus, a hit, and all the other stuff you're doing. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, dude.
All right, moving over to our True Hoop guy from ESPN.com, Henry Abbott. Where are you standing on this Mavericks-Lakers series?
I'm always on the side of the team up 2-0. I think they're going to...
Really? That's your controversial opinion?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm going out on a limb on that one.
Who has the better chance of coming back, Lakers or Celtics?
Lakers.
Really? Why?
I think because they played atrocious team defense last night and still were in the game. And they can fix that, right? Andrew Bynum's points about trust issues, etc., are valid. And if you watch J.J. Barea's turning into Michael Jordan sequence there in the fourth quarter, he didn't really defeat the Laker defense. He defeated air because the help defense didn't come. And so, you know, that's something that they can fix. They've played much better defense almost every time they've ever taken the court, whereas the Celtics are playing hard. You know, they're just have a hard time with the size and strength and speed and skill of people like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade.
The only thing with the Celtics is I do feel like they've had good shots and they've just missed them. The only time I really felt like Miami turned up the defense was in the third quarter of Game 2. But otherwise, it was good shots. And Game 2 was 80-80 with 4 minutes left, and Miami had a 3. Baby missed an easy layup. Wade scored. All of a sudden it was 85-80, and the game slipped away. But I never felt like I watched last night's Dallas game, and I just felt like Dallas was better. Now,
were you disappointed? Didn't you have that feeling like all second half? I'm like, well, this game will be tied at some point, right? The Lakers will get back in this, and then we'll see what happens at the end. Yeah. But then they just didn't. Like, they didn't. That was shocking to me. I was like, the Lakers were sure to just like they'll be back right here in this game, and they never happened.
Most shocking thing for you in round 2 so far?
I really thought the Grizzlies beating the Thunder on the road was wow. You know, wow. Like, the Grizzlies have become from a cute little side story to just like are these guys going to be in the conference finals or possibly the finals? Right. You know what I mean? Like, the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
It used to be you could just slip them into a sentence as like it was as good as saying, you know, the Clippers or the Timberwolves. You could say the Grizzlies, you know, but these are the Grizzlies. You know, never won a playoff game, and wow.
It seems like they've become a little bit of an internet sensation, right?
I guess so.
People are kind of on the bandwagon.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I mean, that game when they eliminated the Spurs was something.
And Zebo?
Yeah.
The most improbable career turnaround in recent NBA history, I think.
There's like so I wrote about this way too much, but so there's like a 15-year trend of really getting in quite serious off-court trouble consistently.
Yep.
And then there's a 2-year trend of being a less selfish, incredibly efficient player who hasn't directly gotten in any off-court trouble in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my fight with Chip Crane, respected Troop Network Memphis blogger, is like, what's more important, the last 2 years or the bigger 15-year trend? You know, I honestly don't know. Like, is he a changed guy, or is he just having a good streak here and will revert to form at some point? You know, I honestly don't know. I would be very happy to see him just become a total new changed guy. You know, apparently he had a daughter and has reformed his ways, and I hope that's the story. It'd be great. I mean, amazing story for the NBA.
Well, the one interesting thing with him was, like, I saw this on the Clippers. I just assumed this is a bad guy. You just think, like, this is one of the bad character guys, and he's going to be on the Clippers, and nobody's going to like him. And I was amazed that it seemed like the teammates really liked him. And I remember talking to Baron Davis about this when they played together that first year. And I did a column where I hung out with Baron at the trading deadline. So we were just shooting the crap and talking about all kinds of stuff. And I was like, what about Zebo? And he was like, Zebo's a good dude. We like Zebo. We all like hanging out with him, and he plays hard. Like, it's just, this might be the wrong team for him, but he's somebody that we all like, we believe in. And I thought that was really interesting.
Well,
it wasn't the answer I expected.
People talk to his high school coach and teammates and his college teammates, and everybody likes him. You see him smiling and interacting with his teammates. Like, it seems like the story of him getting in trouble hasn't so much been him being like diabolical. It's been being a pleaser, right? And you see this in life, right, where people who just want to be liked by those around them will let those around them determine their morals, right? And so that gets you in trouble.
Or get them in bad situations that they shouldn't be in.
Right. So, there's this case, like if the Grizzlies, this is a long shot, but if the Grizzlies make the NBA Finals, then there's a day off between Game 6 and 7. On that day in Indianapolis, there will be a trial starting with a guy who was driving a car registered to Zach Randolph, who, Zach Randolph's lawyer acknowledges lives in Zach Randolph's house in Indiana. And, police had a confidential informant tell them that Zach Randolph had bankrolled this guy's drug distribution operation in Indianapolis. And they went and followed him and pulled him over, found 50, according to police, 50-gram baggies of marijuana in a cooler in the car. And this is kind of a key point. In his car, registered to Zach Randolph, they found secret compartments, which the police believe, are commonly used for hiding drugs. There was a bullet in one of those compartments. And there were papers for some storage units. They went there and found 3 more cars they've impounded. I don't know what they found in those cars. But you put all that together, and you don't really have Zach Randolph doing anything bad recently. But you sure don't have him cutting himself off from people who may have wanted him to do bad things in the past either. And, wouldn't it be a happier story if it was like, no, all those cars aren't my name anymore, and I'm not hanging out with that guy anymore. That'd be better, So I don't know.
And it's pretty interesting. Like if I always judge these things by, all right, let's make believe it's somebody that's in your life.
Right.
Like, all right, it's my next door neighbor. Hey, did you hear about your next door neighbor? No, what happened? Well, he had this car that was registered to him with all these secret drug compartments and 50 grams and whatever, and his buddy who lives in his house got arrested. I would be like, what? That guy's living next to me?
Right.
So, maybe Zebo didn't know what was going on. Maybe he did, I don't know, but you kind of have to know that if a car's registered in your name, it's pretty hard not to know that.
Well, and then so he's got
almost positive.
Here. So, you and I are lucky enough not to have this burden that he has, which is, just the dudes we grew up with.
Yeah.
Are not going to do this, right? So if you want to do your buddy a solid and buy him a car, after, I know you're going to make the NBA any year now, right?
Yeah.
You're going to buy him a car. It's unlikely you'll be in this situation. For Zach, he might have to reject his high school friend. I don't even know his high school, but reject his hometown friend, right?
Yeah.
That's a tough thing to ask, and maybe there's a way to negotiate some middle ground there where he can somehow inspire his friend to not do what he's apparently doing, But so I don't want to be too judgmental here, but if you're going to predict that the guy's got a totally clean record from here forward, this would be some countervailing evidence.
So
right?
This is a story that you and I know about, you've written about. It's out there, but when you get to the conference finals and then eventually the NBA finals, you now have a different audience of fans who are paying attention to what's going on in the NBA. And this is a story that I think, the Grizzlies do have a chance of making the finals. I think they have a real chance of beating Oklahoma City. If you put a gun in my head, I'd probably pick them. And next round, obviously, they could beat Dallas or Lakers. Who knows? I think Dallas is a bad matchup for them. I think they could beat the Lakers. But once we get to the finals, this can't be like a something David Stern would be looking forward to.
Well, David Stern, remember those NBA on ESPN commercials? Actually, they saw them in the RV.
Yeah.
Right. The first when they were, for some reason, I'm not even really sure why, I was invited to the shooting of the first set of those, and there was a representative of the NBA there who was running around making sure every player who made it on camera took off all their jewelry. Right, because they have market research showing that America doesn't like to see NBA players in jewelry.
That's why they also get mad when they show when the guys are walking toward in the hallway before the game, coming up, here's Chris Paul and the New Orleans Hornets, and they show the guy walking.
Right.
I think they get mad if the guy has jewelry in that shot.
Same exact deal, yeah. Right? So now I could write a short novella about how this is racism, right? People just, white Americans don't like to see, young black men flaunting their riches or whatever it is, and there's no reason they shouldn't wear jewelry. It's fine with me. Who cares? But I think the NBA has a real market analysis they've done here, and they don't want to see these guys enjoy it. Well, okay, that's this really theoretical kind of stylistic point. This trial in Indianapolis, or some of these stories about Zach Randolph, that's real. That's not theoretical. That's a real problem. The red state fans that the league has been trying to cultivate, they are not cool with this. So, it is a nervous time, I think, if you're David Stern and looking at the potential matchups. I think, it would not be great to have that trial starting the day before Game 7, and everybody asking questions about, why exactly did you own this car with secret compartments? Like,
right?
Yeah, that's just not good.
And this has been the biggest issue with this league for 40 years, and something that nearly submarined the league in the late 70s and the early 80s. And Stern, the single biggest challenge that he had was, how do I market a league of mostly black players to a market of mostly white people? And they couldn't figure out how to do it in the late 70s, and a lot of stereotypes emerged from that, all that stuff. They have a handle on that now. And I think when you look at the last 10 years of guys that have come up through the league, it's so different than the guys from the 90s. And just, they've done such a good job of kind of prepping these guys for what life's like. And, these people in your life, they can have the ability to submarine you and bring you down and all this stuff. And Zach's kind of from that last generation. He's kind of the last vestige of that Kenny Anderson, Derek Coleman, Chris Herron, just that whole generation where a lot of stuff went wrong. And it is going to be really interesting if this becomes a big story. I'm actually not sure why it hasn't become a bigger story. Feels like it should be a bigger story, right? This has been the best player of the playoffs.
Well, they don't. I don't think they're in a mood for this story in Memphis at all. Like when it was in Portland, it was a Portland story. Like, the John Canzano was on this like every day,
Right.
And the Portland police had, they had it in for Zach and his buddies, and there was just a whole culture of like, this is the worst guy, and
yeah.
And in Memphis, he's been good, and it's very exciting to watch a player, do better.
I feel like they've embraced him. He even said that in that Game 6 interview. He had that, one of my favorite post-game interviews, I think, ever.
Right.
He was talking about, I'm a hard worker, this city's about hard work, they've embraced me, I've embraced the city. I just love the way he put it. Like, it was almost like it felt like it was scripted.
I'm rooting for it. I mean, fantastic. Like, let it be so,
Yeah, and as you pointed out, it's not his fault that he came from one of the worst ways you could possibly grow up, and it's like really hard for these guys to kind of shake the people that when they didn't have anything, these were the guys that were in their life, that had their back, that were their buddies, that, lived and died with them basically.
Well, there couldn't
and now
be a
they're making a bunch of money. God.
No, sorry, there couldn't be a better metaphor than what you just said then. One of the things that's mentioned on his rap sheet is, his brother was like literally spraying bullets into the dance floor in a nightclub. And Zach's the guy who's like dragging him out.
Yeah.
Good guy or bad guy? Pretty heroic probably, but he's still like, wow, this is your brother, and what's he doing, and why are you involved, and why are you there, and but he's not a bad guy. And actually, he got in trouble for that, for lying to police about it. So good for his credibility with his brother, and people who are into that stop snitching kind of thing, but not good for.
When the Grizzlies also have Tony Allen, who had the whole thing at the Denny's restaurant, I think it was, in Chicago, and there was a gun or somebody got shot or whatever, and he had to come back, and that was another thing with him and his old high school buddies, and then both on the same team. They've kind of defied what usually works in the playoffs. Usually you always can get away with the one hit case, but once you have more than two, that's when you get into trouble. And with this team, it kind of works for whatever reason. It's like the crazy team, the crazy irrational confidence team.
You have to. I don't know much about Lionel Hollins. Other than everybody knows, but you have to assume he's doing a great job. Like, that team plays so hard all the time. I think that's why it's so fun to watch. Really.
The Marc Gasol thing's really fun too, because that was a throw-in. And people are like, they're giving Chris Wallace a lot of credit for that, and he deserves credit because he was like, we need that guy to get thrown in the trade. But still, the odds of the 48th pick in the 2007 draft who was thrown into that trade 7 months later because he was 50 pounds heavier than he is now, the odds of that guy getting into shape and becoming the center that Marc Gasol has become, I would say it is 1 in 10, right? Maybe 1 in 8.
Yeah, they'll tell you that they knew him, because he went to high school in Memphis, and that they had special insight into him.
That's interesting. Is that true?
Yeah, he did go to high school in Memphis.
I never knew that. Interesting.
His parents lived there continuously. From when pretty much from when Powell first came. Like his dad, the St. Jude's Hospital is a big NBA charity which is based in Memphis, and their dad worked there. and was around the team, and so they kind of knew Mark, but I don't know that's quite 1 + 1 = 2 where they projected this guy. At the time of the trade, I remember Chris Wallace saying that he projected as a lottery pick and blah blah blah. But
I remember laughing at that. You're like, what? Pal's black sheep brother? You're projecting this lottery pick? Get out of there, Chris Wallace. But man,
there was
the guy's a
just
center.
because of the ages. I wrote at the time there'll be a day, like someday, when because the ages and the high draft picks, there'll be a day when we say that the Memphis got the better of this trade because Pal's going to retire when Mark will still be playing, but I didn't expect it this soon, where it looks pretty great for Memphis.
I mean, this was the worst trade of the 21st century, and now is not in the top 10.
Right. I mean, it's honestly, if Memphis had not made this trade, where would they be now?
Well, I don't think people realize this, but they didn't take care of him when they took care of Mike Conley in the very controversial $45 million contract extension. They did not give.
About Marc Gasol, they got to pay him, right?
Well, he's a restricted free agent.
Right.
We don't know what the new system's going to be, but in my book, he's the single most valuable guy that's going to be out of any of the restricted free agents.
They promised
a max center.
They'd sign Mark.
Yeah, but he's a max center, and we don't know if there might not be a hard cap. This is somebody that they might not be able to match whatever other offer there is. Unless they come up with some sort of a system where you can go, basically the bird rights, where you can go a little bit over to match your own guy. If you can't really do that with whatever the new system is, whoever clears the most cap space is going to get him.
Right.
I think.
Right.
And that's somebody I think you overpay, Marc Gasol, because there's 5 centers in the league. I'm not fine with overpaying Brendan Haywood, but if you want to give, they'll probably have shortened contract rules, so maybe you can't go higher than 4 years. But if you can, the max you can offer him is 4 years, $67 million or whatever. You do it. You give it to him.
Oh, sure.
And there's some teams. Who are the teams that cleared cap space? Indiana, I think, cleared. There's Sacramento.
Right.
Cleared a bunch. There's a couple others, and so this might be the last
situation?
answer. Houston has some. They could probably get rid of some. I don't think Houston's under enough. I don't think they could pull it off. They could do a sign and trade. But, this could be the last dance because he might be gone and Zach Randolph might be in the big house. This could be it.
No, Zach Randolph's not. They're not pressing charges on him.
No, I know. Well, you never know.
You never know. You never know.
It is a little weird that car with the secret compartments. First of all, I never knew that. Maybe I'm naive, but the secret compartments, how do you even get that done? You must have to go to a special guy.
Oh, yeah, they got guys for that.
They have guys for that.
Cops? Come on, they have this.
I haven't watched Cops in a while, but I kind of want a car with special compartments. I think that'd be fun. I could put my kids' DVDs in there.
Yeah, put the Bieber CDs in there, right?
So give me your yeah, Bieber and what's the other, Katy Perry, all that stuff.
Yeah,
so,
I know the Katy Perry.
At gunpoint, finals. Who's your pick?
I'm changing my tune, man. I had
That's all right.
You asked me this a few weeks ago. I think now I would probably go Heat Mavericks.
Hey, it's a safe pick.
Heat Mavericks?
Right now, the way everybody's playing, safe
I guess.
pick. Because I don't understand what happened to the Bulls. I get the fifth gear thing, and they don't have an extra gear, and they get the bullseye, and they've never been the favorite. But just watching them, I don't feel like they're playing as well as they did 6 weeks ago. And I don't know what's happened to Boozer, but he's just been MIA.
So I think I've got a couple of Bulls theories for you.
Okay.
One of them is Jeff Fogel, this guy Hoop Dad, did a pretty cool thing where Derrick Rose hurt his ankle, I think I'm right in saying, in Game 3 against the Pacers.
Yeah.
And so let's back up for a second. The story of Derrick Rose's productivity this season was John Hollinger wrote that he didn't get to the line enough. Like, from that day forward, he started getting to the line way more and became an MVP player. Then he hurt his ankle in that exact moment. From that point forward, he stopped getting the line again, which is a good little measure of how aggressive he's cutting and how explosive he is.
So you think he's hurt, he's playing through it?
Yeah, at the same time, their defense isn't nearly as good, and it's specifically not as good on the perimeter. So I think maybe the same aggressive Derrick Rose that we're lacking on offense, we're lacking on defense. And it makes a difference. You know, these guys are going to play incredibly long minutes, and when he's not getting the line, not getting in the lane, you know, he's not able to dish the ball to Boozer like he used to do for easy buckets. You know, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen for them. And I think Thibodeau got a little bit like, hey, now it's the playoffs, let's throw out the part of our playbook that isn't Derrick Rose-centric because, you know, it's time for our best stuff. And, you know, in that last game they were playing a lot more of the, you know, non-Derrick Rose plays, but I think they got a little tight there with being conservative and giving it to their star every time.
Well, I think that it doesn't make sense to me why they're not trying to get Boozer more involved and why they're not running high screen and pick and pop and basically all the plays that work for him in Utah.
Right.
They didn't never run those plays for him. And, you know, to me, it's like you're not going to win without two scorers. They don't have the second scorer. Boozer is the likely option. And they're better than Atlanta. They're going to come out of this series, whether it takes 6 games, 7 games, whatever. But they'll beat Atlanta. But you need to use these Atlanta games to restore Boozer's confidence because against Miami, that's the guy they need. They're not going to. Derrick Rose isn't going to outscore LeBron and Dwayne. So I just feel like he's to me. And I agree with you. I think Miami, it's just lined up for them so nicely because the Celtics team, ever since the trade, just has not been the same and it's starting to look old. And Chicago just is not at the same level they were a month and a half ago. I remember watching that last Chicago-Miami game and thinking, Chicago's not even shooting well and they're winning this game because they're so good defensively, and they're just not at that level anymore. The West, I think, is so much harder to predict because, first of all, we don't know who's coming out of that Oklahoma City series.
Right.
You could tell me anything's going to happen in that series, I'll believe it. You could tell me Memphis is going to win in 5, I'd believe it. You could tell me Oklahoma City's going to win in 5, I'd believe it.
Absolutely.
So, who knows? Is there a guy in the playoffs right now that you feel like could just own it from this point on?
Good question. I mean, Dirk's been close to that, right?
Yeah, I think it's Dirk. It feels like Dirk is... And also, if it ends up being Miami-Dallas, out of all the elite guys in the league, Durant, I would say, is a close number 2 for this. The guy who could just stare them down. And, all right, you made your shot on your end. Watch this. I'm going to come over on my end and make mine. And also, Miami-Dallas would be just really fun because of the 5 years later, and we'd get to rehash all that stuff. And Dallas just hates Miami.
I would be like not it to referee that one, right?
Right? Yeah, that would have been great. I did this speaking thing at SMU a couple months ago. And I made a joke about the 06 finals, and everybody was with me. It was like 600 people, and I made this joke, and it was a good joke. And it wasn't that nobody laughed because it wasn't funny. It was almost like a too soon.
Right.
There was just one of those silences, like, oh, you brought that up. It was like a sadness.
Yeah.
And it's like Dallas is not over that 06 finals yet. It would be really interesting if those were the two teams. And then you have the Cuban part, and it's probably, I hate to use the word sexy with anything sports, but that's probably your sexiest series. Dirk goes to a whole other level historically if he wins it. Miami's got their whole thing, you know, after the season they had, that they would be in the chance to win the title isn't crazy. I think that would be removing the Celtics fan side of it for me. That would be my favorite matchup.
Yeah, it would be. But I can't think of a matchup I wouldn't want to watch. I'm a huge fan of uncertainty now. Like,
yeah,
I read this research. I'm supposed to write about this soon. I haven't made a ton of time, but they found in European soccer TV ratings that like nothing really drove TV ratings like uncertainty. So,
oh, that's interesting.
I think it's a problem that it's not true for ticket sales. Interestingly, like if you're buying a ticket, you're happy to go and see your team just crush. But if you're going to watch it on TV, it better be like, you know, nobody knows what's going to happen. And another little way of proving this is very interesting. The 63 games of the NCAA tournament make more in revenue than the entire 1,000-plus NBA games of the season.
Mm.
So it's like, you know, people will watch, even though the basketball is not nearly as good. I don't care what anybody says. Like, but it's more uncertain. Every game, like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's crazy. And we're getting that right now. Like in the NBA, we're like, you know, it could be Memphis in the finals. It could be anybody. It could be it could be anything.
It's great.
Anything could happen. And I just have to admit, like, turning on my TV at night and just being like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I have no idea. I think I can get into that. I think that's fun. And that's, by the way, what's driving a lot of why the NBA wants a team-by-team hard cap in this next CBA is because they want to have that all the time.
Well, because that's the football model.
Right.
You have 32 teams every football season that you're going to have some bad ones and some good ones, but it doesn't take that long for the bad one to become competitive.
Right.
And that's what, here in the NBA, and I think they're going to take the team over from the Maloofs, mainly because for a lot of the same reasons that Selig and McCord happened. I don't think the Maloofs are going to be able to have the payroll to run this team or be able to meet the payroll and all that stuff. It's just my personal opinion. Ideally, I think 28 is the right length for this, or the right number of teams for this league. With the talent, if you want that kind of uncertainty, if you don't want to have just the dregs year after year, like your 7 horrible teams, 28 is the right number. I don't know if they're ever going to contract because I think that's a badge of honor for Stern. I also think he likes the Maloofs, so I could see them working out something where they run the team, but the Maloofs are still kind of in charge or whatever the hell's going to happen. But man, if they could just merge a couple teams or do whatever needs to happen to get to that 28, I think you get to that uncertainty. I think year after year it'll be, you're going to have turnover. Like you're going to have a team like the Lakers that are going to get old. You're going to have a team like Orlando that put their eggs in a basket that ended up not working out. But I think it'll be a little bit easier to turn things around. Memphis is a great example. Because,
I think it kind of comes down to 2009 Lakers, so the reigning champions, and then Lamar Odom is a free agent. And so the question is, do they get to keep that, highly paid but secondary player, or does he get to go to a team like the Hornets that's going to try to beat the Lakers with him? So I think with a hard cap model, then that kind of player goes to the Hornets, makes a little less probably because the market's a little tighter with the hard cap, and might come back and just be the guy to unseat the Lakers. If the Hornets had him in the first round, maybe it's a little different. If you switch teams with that guy. Yeah,
if they make it so that you can really only pay 3 guys.
Right.
And then you have to be really smart with the other 9 roster spots. You got to draft well. There will be uncertainty.
Yeah.
But in the old days we thought, well, this will be bad. They need the big markets. They need LA. They need New York. That turns out to be BS because everybody's enjoying this playoffs, and you got Oklahoma City and Memphis and Atlanta. These are not major markets that have a ton of fans.
And they used to really argue for player stability as a business move, right? You want to keep the stars in the market for a long time to make money. But this is the year that LeBron moving teams boosted ratings. And it's like, I think there's a little bit of a religion of player movement where like, hey, if Chris Paul changes teams every few years, that might actually be the most exciting thing that ever happened.
Yeah, and I think, you think Dwight Howard will get traded, right? Next 8 months?
Oh, Carmelo, but it seems to be that he's not going to be in Orlando for the long haul. But
Carmelo, the sequel. You move him before February, and you try to reposition your franchise the best you can with the trade.
Right.
Not a lot of options for them with that. Because if I'm them, I also want to get rid of a couple of my other contracts.
I'm thinking Nets.
Yeah. You mean like for Lopez and... The only thing is the Nets don't have a lot to trade anymore because they gave up so much for Darren Williams.
Right. But so basically it's with Carmelo, it's de facto free agency, right? It's like it's free agency where the team gets whatever assets it can. The Nuggets happen to do pretty well because they were shrewd, but they didn't have to do well. Like if the issue had been forced, the Nuggets would have had to just take what they could get.
If you look around, if you try to figure out, it would have to be a big enough city that they would have a chance to keep him.
Right.
They would have to have enough assets to give back. They would have to have the flexibility to take back a contract. They'd have to have picks, all that. I looked at this pretty carefully. I was just curious, and it seems like on paper the Rockets randomly would be the best team. That would have, they would have to convince him to play there. But they would have the most pieces and flexibility, et cetera, to kind of at least take that chance in February.
Yeah.
Try to get him.
Who would they trade for him?
Well, you do Scola, you do Kevin Martin, You do the Knicks pick that you have. You do Patrick Patterson. Like, you do one of those.
Right.
You do like a 5-for-1 type thing. The Clippers are another team that I think, if they put Chris Kaman on the table with Eric Gordon and Aminu, and they also had that Minnesota pick in 2012.
Right.
And that's L.A.
Right.
And if they could do everything they can to get Dwight Howard and keep Griffin, and then we'll figure it out from there. Those are our 2 foundation guys. Be pretty interesting.
But I think the first priority is you got to basically successfully woo Dwight as a free agent, even while he's not yet a free agent. Right? And then you've got to also satisfy the team. Do you think Dwight Howard wants to be a Clipper? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, not with that owner, probably not. Golden State's another team that they have Stephen Curry, who has a ton of value, and they have a couple contracts. I think they have a couple expiring things. It's a good market. That may be a possibility, but I don't think it's last year you just looked at it and you were like, all right, New Jersey can do it, and he wants to play in New York, and they have just enough to pull it off. Lakers, buying him and Odom would be the package, right?
Right.
And some number 1 picks. You Howard and Turkoglu. If Howard just did the Carmelo and said from July on, I'm only going to get traded to the Lakers, and puts Orlando in that position, Carmelo showed him the blueprint of how to do that.
Right.
So I think that could be how it plays out. Anyway, I know you have to go. Henry Abbott, we'll check you out on True Hoop. Any big pieces you're working on?
I'm working on something right now. I interviewed a sports psychologist today about what does it mean when Andrew Bynum says the Lakers have trust issues. And interesting stuff. He kind of he was like, look, that is significant, that matters, but not nearly as much as being down 2-0. Like, that's what dooms the Lakers, not this trust thing. So.
All right. Well, check that out. Thanks for the time.
All right, thank you, Bill.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.